Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Blazor e-commerce series. As you can see here, the new thing is right on the top right. It's all about our cart now, and when I click here I can see the items I've added to my cart, and we do this with the help of the local storage, and we will also add some toast or pop-up notifications. As you can see here, we will use the libraries by Chris Sainty, really great stuff. So Blazor local storage it is, and also Blazor toast for the notification. And just to show you, this is already the finished implementation. If I want to add Ready Player One to my cart, I can click now add to cart, and then you get this sweet notification here. You can go to the cart and then you see the item with the price and of course also the total price, and I can delete it again, and that's it. Doesn't seem to be much, but it was a lot more than I have expected. So I would say we start. I will discard all the changes and then we will do this together. One thing while I'm doing this, thank you very much to all my supporters. Again, it's quite early in the morning. I've got my coffee ready. Maybe you have too. And if you want to support me as well, thank you so much. Check out the link in the video description. Maybe you want to buy me a coffee. Last time I got a coffee from Colombia, which tasted really great, of course. And apart from that, I'd really appreciate if you click the like button or subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to click the bell icon to get a notification if I upload a new episode, or as soon as I upload a new episode. And if you want to get early access to the upcoming online course I'm creating out of this series here, maybe you want to check out the video description as well and subscribe to my newsletter. With that, you get early access. Okay, so I switched the branches. Now I'm on the master branch and not my preparation branch. And with that now, there should be the current state of the last episode running. Yep, that's it. You see this about link here, and I can click add to cart, but nothing is happening. So the very first thing we have to do in Visual Studio is adding the local storage. So let's go back to Visual Studio. And in the client project, read right click and then manage the NuGet packages. But before we can do that, of course, we have to stop the app and then retry again by right clicking and manage NuGet packages. And then we just look for Blazor local storage. There it is already, by Chris Sainty again, and install this one. And while we're already here at NuGet, we can also install the toast notifications so we don't have to do this later. So that would be Blazor toast. There it is, install. And that's it. Then we have to configure both. So we have to add some code to make this work. And I would say we start with the local storage. Very first thing we have to do is register this new library in the program CS. And to do that, just down here, we enter builder, then services, and then add Blazor local storage, and we have to add a using directive for that, which would be Blazor local storage. After that, we can go to the imports razor and import or add the reference for that, so we don't have to do this in every single component. So we just add using Blazor local storage and save this one. And that should be it already. Now, the very first thing we do now is adding items to the cart by adding them to the local storage. So we have to go to the product details razor. And as you can see here, we have our button add to cart, but there is no function here connected to that button. So let's write a new function. which we will call add to cart, shall we? And we start with private async task. It is asynchronous because the local storage library is asynchronous by default. There's also a synchronous version of it if you want to use that one, but it doesn't really matter in our case. So let's just use the default one, which would be asynchronous then. And now we can first define our cart variable, which is a list of product variants. And for that, we now have to use the local storage. To be able to do that, we inject it up here with add inject and then local storage service. Call this local storage, and then it is available here. There it is, with a bunch of functions, of course. And what I want to do is I want to check first if there is something in the cart already, so in the local storage. And if so, we get the current cart and add a new item to it. Otherwise, we just add a new list of product variants and then add a new product variant to the cart. So with get item async, we have to tell this function the correct type. So product variant, it's a list of product variants, and we call this item cart. And again, if the cart now is null, then we create a new list of product variants. So now we definitely have a cart which is a list of product variants, and after that we simply add the selected variant, which is the function we added in the last episode. So this one here, get selected variant, and then we set that to the local storage with set item async. The variable is cart and the object is also cart. And of course we have to add the function up here, and we do that with add on click. There it is, add to cart. This should be it already. So I would say we run the app again and then have a look. Okay, we're getting an error, and I had this already. Could be the case that we can fix this quite simply by just rebuilding the whole solution. Okay, let's try that again. All right, looks a lot better. Let's open this one, and now I open the console as well. I've already got something here. This is from the earlier state of the application, but now we see that on the interface nothing has changed. But now when I click add to cart, I see the new item here. I've got the key. This is the string we used. This one down here, cards. Could use a constant here, maybe. But anyways, this works as well. So I've got the key here. Now, of course, if I click add to cart again, there would be a second product variant of the same product and the same variant added here to this array. But I think you get the idea. I can add Half-Life 2 for the PlayStation, for instance. And then I've got this item here now with the addition, everything we need. And the price, don't worry about that. We will get the original or the current price then from the server later. But for now, this already is a big win, I guess. We have added this thing to the local storage. Maybe you know this when you're online, not on Amazon or something, but other stores. Sometimes you add something to the cart, close the application or close the browser, and then you go back to the website to check out, but then your cart is empty. And this is simply because, I don't know, maybe they don't use the local storage and they just use the session storage, or I don't know how they do this. But I hate this when I don't have an account, go to a website, want to buy something, add it to the cart, and then I come back later and everything is gone. And to maybe if you had registered, or if I had registered for an account, then these things will be stored on the server. I don't know how people do this, but I think the local storage is a good way to save all the things you want to maybe buy later. And apart from that, of course, there's also the possibility to add this to the database, but this is not what we will do in this episode. Long story short, local storage works great. Okay, the next thing I want to add is the toast notification. So you see the local storage works quite fast, or the implementations are done really fast, but now for the toast notifications we also have to configure that one. So we already installed this thing from NuGet, and now we have again to add this service here, add Blazor toast this time, and also add a using directive. There it is. And the next thing are again the imports with using Blazor toast, and also using Blazor toast service. And of course I don't have this in my head, I am looking this up. And after that we have to go to our main layout, and then down here we add the Blazor toasts with an S. That's really important. There's also this one, but this does not work. You have to use the component Blazor toasts. And then we have to add the CSS in the index HTML, and there's the CSS mentioned in the GitHub repo. Where is it? Let me just have a look. There it is. So here's also the whole installation, and regarding the CSS file, we use the minified one, and I just copy and paste it because I'm a lazy programmer. So down here we add this thing, and that's it. This is the configuration. And now back to the product details. We can add a toast notification. Of course, we have to inject our toast service first. So I toast service, and then toast service. Okay, and now here we can say toast service. And then we've got a bunch of options here. Show error is just a red color. Info is blue, I think. Warning is orange. And we use show success now with the product title as a text, and the title, the actual title of the toaster, of the toast notification, is simply added to cart. Like that. And the product, by the way, remember, is this thing here that is set on initialization of this component. Okay, that's it. And the app should be rebuilding. Let's go back here. Okay, we can close the GitHub tabs. And now this has been loaded. Let's add the Super Nintendo. And we get our toast notification. Added to cart, Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And here it is as well in local storage now. Okay, actually I could stop the video now, right? The local storage work, the pop-up notifications work, but now to the cart. This one takes some time. So the very first thing here is that what you see in all the web shops, of course, is that you have a cart information on top. On the top right, maybe you see, okay, this is your cart and you have so and so many items in this cart. So this is the very first thing we should add, and this is a new component. So back to Visual Studio, we add a new one here in the shared folder, because this one is shared by the complete page. So by every, you see this the whole time. So it makes sense to add this to the shared folder. I call this top menu because maybe we will add something else later on, like logging in, for instance, or logging out. And after that, we first inject the local storage because we need the information how many items you've got in your local storage or in your local storage card. And for that, this time I use the Synchronous local storage service because I want to call the function to get the current count of our items in the local storage from the HTML, and this did not work from the HTML here with Blazor. Maybe it works for you, but please try it out, and then you see what I mean, I guess. Well, but anyways, first then in the code block we write the function to get the current count, and this is simply done with a private function, get product count, and then again we need the local storage. So our card is a local storage get item, which is again a list of product variants, and the name of the local storage item is card. And then we return, if the card is not null, we return the card count, and if it's null, it's actually 0. So if we don't have this item here, if it's null, then we also just return 0. And now regarding the HTML, I want to display a link in essence, which will go to the card page later on. You can already do this one, and this is a button with the class button info, so it's another color than the primary blue one. Let's also add the card icon, which would be the class OI card. We call this thing card, and then also I want to display the count of our items in the card with a little badge, and we can do this with a span. The class for that is provided by Bootstrap. It's badge, and then badge pill, and regarding the color I use light. And now here I want to use get product count as a function. And when I do this with the asynchronous local storage, again, this did not work. But let's just see if I now say iLocal storage, and I think Visual Studio is a bit slow now. Yeah, there's the error. Of course, this is the synchronous function. I can call the asynchronous one here as well. And well, this would work, but this is then done synchronously, and we get the errors here. But if I say await, and also I want to return a task with an integer, then I guess when Visual Studio is done, it still works. Okay, we try. Ah, no, we don't see an error. I remember now. We don't see an error here, but we will in a second when we start the application. Or it did already rebuild. So let's just go to our app and maybe reload it by ourselves. We don't, of course, we have to add the top menu to the main layout. As I said, it's quite early in the morning, but I got my coffee, of course. Ah, great. Okay, and the only thing we have to change here is instead of the about link, we add the top menu like that. And now when the application is restarted, you see this cute little icon here. It is rebuilding now. Then we should see the button here, unless we've got an error already. Nope, it is rebuilding here. See, system runtime compiler and so on. Async state machine box, something is not working here, and that's why we have to use the synchronous local storage service. So back to product details. no, not product details, the top menu, async local storage service, and remove all the asynchronous stuff, so it's just an int. And we use the get item method. Saved it, but it is not rebuilding. Why not? I don't know. Maybe we just save this thing here again. Now it's rebuilding. We've got an error here. Okay, this is, I don't know, this is Visual Studio. Well, now we see our count here, our count of the items or the number of items we've got in our cart. But the problem with this is, maybe you know this already, when I now want to add the Xbox, I add it. I've got 4 items in my cart in the local storage, but this thing here hasn't been refreshed. I still see 3 items here. Well, what can we do now? We have to use event callbacks. One little thing I just remember is we don't see the top menu here, so if you want to see it on your smartphone as well, or we just want to make this responsive, we have to comment out this thing here. So in the main layout Razor CSS, there's under media, or there's a media tag for, well, resolutions up to 640 pixels, where the top row then is hidden. Just comment this out or just remove this thing, and when this is rebuilding now, we still should see our cart. Yeah, there it is. Now we've got 4, of course, because the website has been reloaded, but we do not get the information here. The top menu doesn't get the information that something has been added to the cart, or that the cart is empty, or something has been removed. There is no communication between these things. So what we have to do now to make this work is add a service, and this is where the actual work starts, right? So we've already got our product service, our category service, and now we also add a cart service here. So let's call this cart service, and then we also add an interface, of course. So a new item interface, and this thing is the cart service, and also we add a new class which is also called cart service. This class is already public. Let's also make the interface public, and I know already that we need the product service. We have to inject the product service or use something of the product service, and that's because we have to make this interface public as well. Keep that in mind, or do it now. And now regarding the interface, we need an event similar to the product service. We add an event action on change, and then we also add a new function, add to cart, and here this is a product variant we will add to the cart. So let's call this product variant and add the reference for Blazing Shop shared. Okay, so again we've got the iCart service interface with the onChange event and the function add to cart, which is asynchronous. And now let's go to the implementation. We implement the interface iCart service. Can do this automatically again with control period and then implement interface. So now we've got our onChange event, and now we also need a constructor because we have to inject the local storage, the toast service, and also the product service. That's again why I made the interface public. So let's start with CTOR, and then our constructor is built. So we need the local storage service. Call this local storage we add the using directive for Blazor local storage, and we make this a field, create and assign field local storage. Then we need the toast service for our suite notification. So I toast service, add the using directive, and also make this a field. And the last one is the product service, because we need some information of the actual product. So I product service, and this wouldn't work if the interface would still be private. So keep that in mind again. We call this product service. Using directive client services product service. That's correct. It's not the service from the server. It's the client service here. And also we add the field, and as always I want to add an underscore in front of all these fields, and we do this as well here. All right, okay, so we've got our constructor and injected some stuff, and now we need our add to cart method. Here, the first thing again is the actual card, and we will again use our local storage service for that. Don't forget to add the async keyword here. Await local storage, then get item async. We want a list of product variants, and the name is card. All right, and now we check again if the card is null. Then we initialize this thing as a new list, like that. All right, and then we add the new product variant. So card add product variant. After that, we set the new card to the local storage item. Set item async card. So this is exactly the same implementation we did earlier in the product details. And then we need the product title. We do not have it with the product variant alone. That's why we get the product from our product service. So await product service, get product, and then product variant product ID. And now we can show the correct title in our pop-up notification here. So show success product title, and then add it to card as text. And then, very important, on change invoke, because with that we say, hey, something has changed, right? And this is how the top menu then can react to this function and rebuild or re-render its own component, and then we will see the correct count. But before we go to the top menu, we have to register the card service. Again, short look at the card service itself. We've got our fields here, the local storage, toast service, product service, injected all this. We've got our action here on change, and with the add to cart method, having a product variant as an argument, we get the card first, add a new item, we get the actual product from the service, from the product service, to get the title, and then we show the toast service, and then again, very important, invoking the onChange event. Okay, now first to the program CS to register our card service. So here, similar to the other ones, we say add scoped, and then I card service. There it is. And I'd say we can also add it to the imports, so we don't have to use the whole namespace. Here now we can say Blazing Shop Client Services Card Service. Okay, and now to the top menu again. Here it is. We have to add something else now. First we have to inject our card service. So card service, and then we also have to implement the disposable interface because we want to subscribe to the onChange event of the card service, but also unsubscribe on dispose. So implements disposable, there it is. And now down here, first we say on initialization, we subscribe to the onChange event. So protected override void on initialized, and I don't know why Visual Studio is still formatting this that way. But anyways, what we can now do is we say card service onChange plus equals state has changed. So this means state has changed will be called, this is a function, this one will be called when the onChange event is invoked or raised. Tell me in the comments what the correct term is here, please. Thank you very much. But you can see here in the description, this function notifies the component, this component here, so top menu raiser, that its state has changed, and when applicable, this will cause the component to be re-rendered. So again, the event will be invoked, and then the component will re-render, and then we see the correct count or the correct number of items we've got in our cart. And again, we also have to unsubscribe, so void, public void dispose. This is the function we have to implement because we are implementing the disposable interface. And here now we say card service onChange minus equals state has changed. Okay, this should be it regarding the top menu, but now we have to go to the product details again. And now the add to cart function looks a little bit different, of course. Instead of making all this thing here by itself, the product details should call the cart service. So first we have to inject the cart service here. Inject cart service, and then we can actually remove all this and then say await cart service add to cart, and we again get the selected variant here. That's it, I think. If I did not forget anything, we should now see the correct number of items when we add a new item to our cart. Application is rebuilding. And there it is. And let's add another book. Ready Player One maybe again. Have a look at this little number here. We've got 4 items, add to cart, and now we've got 5. Isn't that great? So many implementations just to see another number here. Okay, this works. And now what we have to do is actually create our cart page, right? So that we really see what items are in our cart. So in the page folder, we right click and add a new Razor component. We call this thing cart. All right, now this is a page, so we use the page directive here, and the URL should be cart. Remember, I already added this thing to the top menu here. Where is it? There it is. href is cart, and this is exactly why I did this. This is the correct route now, and we need the cart service for that. So let's inject it. Cart service. The title can be changed to shopping cart, I think. And the very first thing we can do here is we check if we have any cart items. For that we also need another variable here. So list cart items, and for that we actually need another model. So let's start with the model first, because I have to explain this. I think at this moment in the local storage we save or we store product variants, right? And with these product variants maybe we see the name of the edition, but we do not see the title of the product. And also we have here a price that might not be the correct one. If you have a look at several web shops, maybe you add something to your cart and you come back a day later and the price has changed. So you do not want to use the price that's stored in the local storage. Well, there's one thing we could have done, of course, just not save the price in the local storage and create another model, use another model to only store, and maybe this would make more sense now when I'm thinking about this, only store the edition ID and the product ID. So really just that combination, because with that you know what the user actually wants to see in the cart. And the other thing is that when we maybe just go directly to the cart, so we do not load our products. Maybe I'm not sure if you're loading the products on the beginning, maybe you do that, but anyways, we are going to the cart, and just imagine we only have a combination of a product ID and an edition ID, so there's a lot of information that is missing. Now again, we've got the name of the edition here in this case, but in the other case, we are missing the title of the product, we're missing the image, maybe the actual price, and so on. So what I want to do is, long story short, I want to use or add a model that stores all that information or transfers all that information. In essence, it's a DTO, a so-called data transfer object, that gets information of the product variant, the edition, and the actual product, and takes these information and saves it or displays it with one certain model. Now I'm talking a lot today, let's just create this thing. So we add a new class, and I think then this will make more sense, and I call this cart item here, and this cart item now gets some properties, of course. We make this thing public first, and then we add first the product ID, because maybe when we want to get some more information we have the ID here, or when we store later orders, maybe we save orders with just the IDs. Then I'm not sure about that, but at this very moment we are only implementing the cart. So we add the product ID, the edition ID, and now this is what I mean. We add the product title here as string. So we directly see the title. We do not have to go one step further down to a child object like the product and then get the title from there. We just put it here. Same for the edition name. And then also let's store the price here. And the last thing would be the image. Okay, so you see here are information of the edition, the product, and the product variant. We've got the price, which is from the product variant, the edition name, of course, from the edition, image from the product, title from the product, and so on. And we've got all this in one model now, and we use this as DTO, as data transfer object, because when we get these things or the information, we store it there. Jesus Christ, early in the morning. Just let me take a sip of my coffee. All right, so the cart razor now, and that's why I added this model. I want to have a list of cart items in the cart. Makes sense, right? Cart items. Do not initialize this thing here because we check if cart items is actually null or cart items count something like 0, then we display a little text in a span like you have no items in your cart. Okay, maybe we should just initialize this thing here with or as a new list of cart items. And then when this thing has been rebuilt, we go back to Chrome. We've got our shop items here. We can go to the cart. Let's have a look at the application and then load. Yeah, okay. So we see you have no items in your cart. Beautiful, but this is actually wrong because we have 5 items in our cart, and that's what we have to implement next. So we want to get all our cart items. For that, we again go to the cart service, and in the interface, we add a new method, task list cart item, and we call this method get cart items. Like that, and then back to, or save this, and then back to the implementation class. We implement the interface, make this thing asynchronous, and then this one will be a little bit bigger. So what we want to do here is we get all our cart items from the local storage, and then we go through them, we iterate through them with a for each, get the product, get the edition, and out of all this we create a new cart item object and add this one then to the list that we will return to the actual cart page then, because the page then will call this function. But let's start with the results, which again is a new list of cart items. Then we receive our cart from the local storage with await local storage get item async, which is a list of product variants. Name is cart. Again, if this thing is null, we just return the result, which is then again an empty list of cart items, but then in a for each item in our cart now, we first get the product, with await product service get products item product ID, and now we create our cart item. So this is a new cart item, and we can already set some properties here. So the product ID is actually the product ID. Product title is product title. Image is product image. And then the edition ID. The edition ID is actually item edition ID, like that. And then regarding the other properties, we first have to get the proper variant. So product variants find, and maybe just to show you, we can actually access this because in our server function we include the variants and the additions, right? That's important because otherwise we would not be able to access the variants here. Again, just as a side note, but of course you have watched all the other episodes, so you know this, right? Now, where we want the variant where the addition ID of the variant is the edition ID of our item. And now if the variant is not null, we can set the card item this one, the edition name, to the variant edition. Let's check if this thing is null. Name, then card item price to variant price. Of course, we could have added the original price as well, but I think this is sufficient for now. And in the end, we add this then to the result list. And finally, return the result. Okay, so a new list of card items. We get the card from the local storage, then we get the proper product or products with the for each, set the values, get the proper variant, and also set some values there. And now we have to modify our card raiser. And in here again, we override the onInitialized method, this time the asynchronous one. Async task on initialized, where is it? On protected override async task on initialized async actually. Okay. And here we say card items. Now Visual Studio got what I wanted. So card service get card items. Okay, simple as that, right? So with that we get our card items. When we save this now, we wouldn't save, or we wouldn't see anything on our page, right? Because we have this if condition here, and only if we think that we do not have any card items, then we would see some text, but otherwise the else case is missing. But we can have a look on our page now, see it recognizes that we got some items actually. And let's have a look at the network tab. We see some calls then, because we have 5 items here, so we are getting all the products. Of course, we can do this better. We can, or in a better way, we can add another call to the product service where we send an array of edition ID and product ID combinations, again as DTOs, to the product service, and then there would only be one call, and this call would return then all the products with its variants and additions. I encourage you to do it that way. It's definitely more clean, and maybe in the upcoming online course I will do it then this way. But this is more, this YouTube series is more like, I don't know, like a freestyle edition where we, together with you of course, where we decide what to do in the next episode. Anyways, let's show the card items. So we need an else case. And now we have to write some HTML and also some C# code. So first we add a div, and in a for each we iterate again through all our card items. And we call this card items again. And now in the for each we add another div. And now I will already add some classes, but add or write these CSS classes later, after I implemented the HTML stuff. So this thing will be of class, or has the class item container. And now in here we have an item image wrapper where we will see the image of the product, and we can already use the image variable here and also add another class which would be item image. After that we add another div with the class name item name, and here I want to add an h5 with the product title and also a link to the actual product, so you see what you have added to your cart. Product item product ID would be the href, the URL, and then we add item product title. You see, now I can use these properties here to display the title, and the same of course for the addition, which I'm using now with item addition name. And regarding the deletion, let's do this in the end, or at the end, because now let's focus on just receiving the items and displaying them. So we add another class which would be item price, and here we display the item price like that. But what we can already do is show the total, so div class also item price total with the count of the cart items, and then dollar and cart items, and then we use the sum function here for all our items, so we calculate the sum of all the prices. Okay, so we've got our for each with an item container, the item image. You know what, let's just test this, but first let's add the CSS for that, and we can do this now with another item and call this is important, we call this is a style sheet, and we call this cart razor CSS. Okay, as you see, Visual Studio got that and knows that this is a CSS file just for the cart razor component, and we don't have to use the app CSS here then. Okay, so our classes are item container, which gets a display flex, and I want to add a padding of 6 pixels. Jesus, 6 pixels. And then we've got the item image wrapper, item image wrapper with a width of 150 pixels, and the text alignment center. Then the item image, which gets a maximum height of 150 pixels, also a maximum width of 150 pixels, and also a padding of 6 pixels. After that, the item name, which gets flex grow 1. This just means I want to have 3 columns, and the one with flex grow 1 is the only one that grows, when I understood this correctly. Okay, and the last one is the item price with font weight 600, so it's in bold text, and also the text align should be right. Okay, I think we're done. Let's save this again, or maybe this thing here, so the application will rebuild. And we can already go to Chrome. Okay, it's still rebuilding, I think. Yeah, and reloading. And we've got our cart. Okay, nice. So we see our items now. Isn't that great? After a lot of work, we see the actual cart. We can add another item, and there's Half-Life 2 again for the PlayStation. Of course, we could do this a bit better and show a quantity or something like that with a drop down or another button to delete only one item or change the quantity, whatever. But for now, I think this is enough. And with that now, let me just have a look at the local storage. I just want to test when I remove this and reload the page. Exactly, we see that there's nothing in our cart, and now I can go here and see the item. Great, okay, this works, and I think the last step now would be to delete an item, and then we are done. I think we're already 1 hour in, so a long episode again. But there's a lot to learn, I think, so let's go back to Visual Studio. And now the last method here would be the delete method. In our iCard service, we add task delete item, and I want to have the complete card item for that. And now in the card service, we implement this. So down here, we first receive our complete card and try to find the proper card item, remove it, and then set the new card to the local storage. And then again, we have to invoke the onChange event. Okay, so first our card, and actually, let me just copy this. So here we've got our card. This is an asynchronous method, async task, and then if our card is null, we simply return, and then the card item would be card find, and then where the product ID equals the given item product ID, and also the edition ID equals the given edition ID. Okay, so this is the combination. You know this from the last episode. This combination is the composite primary key in this case. And I know that we can actually add more items to the card that have the exactly same IDs, but that doesn't really matter. It's the same item. So when we delete it, any one of these is deleted. So this doesn't really matter. So now we remove this certain card item from our list, and then again we set the new card. So set item async card, and then for the top menu we have to invoke the onChange event again, similar to the add to card method, so that we see the correct number. Regarding the card page itself, we will simply get all the card items again, and then we get the correct number and the correct list of all the items. So this is the delete item method. Again, we're receiving the card, find the correct card item, remove it, and then set the complete card back again. And now in the card Blazor page, we add another method, a delete item method as well. So this is a private async task, delete item, card item. And here we say await card service delete item with the given item. And after that, we set the card items to await card service get card items again. It's the easiest way to simply see the correct amount of card items. And of course we need a delete button. So up here we add button, class button delete. This is a class that we will write in a minute. And then with on click, there it is. We want to call the on click function. Since we're using a parameter here, we have to do it in a crazy way. We use this expression here, so delete item like that, and we call this delete. Okay, so we've got our HTML, we've got our function, and the last thing we have to add now is some CSS again. So back to, where is it, the card Blazor CSS. And now down here we add button delete. And I actually don't want this button to look like a button actually. I want to have more like a link style. So we set the background to none. The border would also be none. And then the padding is 0 pixels. The color is red because it's dangerous. We delete an item. I'm really sure about that. Don't you want to buy this item? And then on hover, let's add the text decoration with a button delete hover. We add text decoration underline. Whew, okay, I think that's it. The page is rebuilding, that's nice. So let's go back to Chrome. And we've got an item here. We've got the delete link or button. One more thing I want to change is I want to have that in the next line. So like that. It's rebuilding. And when this is done, we should see the delete link in the next line actually. There it is. This is the local storage. This is our card. This looks nice. We can delete it. And we see that the count has been refreshed. We see the correct card here. Let's try this again with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I want this book as paperback. I want Ready Player One as paperback. Then I want to play Day of the Tentacle. And also the Super Nintendo. So we've got 4 items. We go to our card. We've got these 4 items. We've got the correct sum. We can go to the details page of the items. And we can also delete an item and everything looks great. All right, I think that's it. As I said, a long episode this time. Thank you very much for staying with me for such a long time. And again, thank you very much to all my supporters for buying me a coffee. If you want to support me as well, maybe consider buying a coffee with the link in the video description. Apart from that, please give me a thumbs up if you learned something and it wasn't too confusing. I hope not. If not, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up and maybe even a subscription to this channel. It does make a difference. Don't forget to click the bell icon to get a notification as soon as I upload the next episode, which will be, I think, about orders or authentication, something like that, because it's time to add users to this shop, and the users should then see their orders, maybe, right? So something like that, maybe in the next episode. And then the next thing would be subscribing to my newsletter, of course, if you want to get early access to the upcoming online course. And if you already want to dive a bit deeper to Blazor WebAssembly, please have a look at my Blazor WebAssembly full stack bootcamp. You're building a classic online browser game there with authentication already. We're using JSON Web Tokens to register and log in users. And in this classic browser game, you build an army of fighters like mages, knights, and so on, and then you fight against other users and climb the leaderboard to become the best warrior of them all. Check out the link in the video description, or check out the info card for the 2-hour preview available here on YouTube. Okay, I will check this in now, so the code is available on GitHub. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you next time. Take care.